Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. We have 5 rounds for you in the magazine today. Round number 1, a mass beheading by the Taliban in Afghanistan, but there was actually no fatalities involved. It's very misleading of us to scare you in round number 1. No one was killed. Well, we can't say that. That's not something that
I mean, how can you beheading and nobody was killed?
Who wrote that? That was
I think the Taliban, I posted a blog about the Taliban the other day because they also have, which we could talk about in round number 1. They also have announced that they are going to have a suicide division in their special operations division.
Oh, the opposite of what the U.S. military is doing, you know?
They actually have like a legitimate office like that where they're trying to recruit people with the purpose of being suicide bombers. And I was like, how do you do this? And at the bottom of it, I found this video just by searching. Now it's all over the place, but it was a helicopter that crashed and the pilot, the Afghan pilot, the Taliban pilot died. And even people that are recording it, they're like, ha 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 ha. Why and like crashes in and people are like, yay. Like they're so happy about it.
It's so
like,
dark.
At least we don't live in a spot in America where the people view the military like that. Like if one of our planes goes down, they're not like, woohoo, fuck you guys. That's essentially what's happening with the Taliban. Round number 2, Brussels Airlines takes a page out of the U.S. military playbook by spending money. So they have more money to spend next year. They had to take something like 3,000 flights so they wouldn't lose their spot on the flight line. Ridiculous. Round number 3, this story could go either way. It's a good initiative, bad judgment, or a story of a man who's just blooming where he was planted. We're going to let you decide after you hear the tale of a fella who is now the chief of the fire department, despite having, wait for it, a conviction for arson. Like you would think
the man knows fire. This is like when the FBI
that's true.
hires
Subject matter expert.
Catch me if you can. Hello,
Frank
they hired
Abagnale.
him.
Yeah.
Or Fire Marshal Bill.
Right. Same potato.
Potato, indeed. Round number 4, we have a little bit of a SitRep. What in the world is happening in Kazakhstan? Also, we're going to give you some quick updates about some of the things that are happening in Syria and Iraq as well, including the Iranians getting their little drone shot down, those little pussies. And round number 5, Slits. What's the deal with them? I'm just kidding. We're not talking more slits. We're not slit goofing.
Oh, stop saying that word. Stop saying that word.
A Marine is going viral for his car-to-car breakfast delivery during the huge snowstorm in D.C. that trapped people for up to 24, sometimes 36 hours, including some senators were on the road. And we need, I don't know if I've ever done this, but I'm going to start the show off by giving out Firewatch, the vice president. Vice President Harris, you are on Firewatch. You have to be better about your comms team. I know you're not the one that tweeted this, but you cannot tout the infrastructure bill and saying we're finally get America moving while just 3 miles away, people are legitimately not moving.
Right. Not great optics
their
on
cars. And then you had people like one of the Fox News folks was like, this is what's going on with the left woke media. They don't want us to have military grade snow removal. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, a ton of people were calling for, why don't they just bring the National Guard to shovel it out? And poor National Guard's they're already driving buses. They're going
to be like,
with the National Guard.
Damn minute. I'm sick of this shit over and over again. Leave me alone. If I'm in the National Guard, I desert. I'm a deserter. I'm sick of this shit if I'm the National Guard. Going down to the fucking border in Texas. Also, the border in Texas. Unions are out of control right now. Some of the unions, one of the unions down at the border was like, we've had 25 deaths that were related to what's going on at the border, which makes you think it's violence at the border, right?
What do you mean unions?
Like the police unions, the border patrol unions, like they all have like these unions. One of them said we're experiencing more violence than we ever have. We've had this many deaths that happened this year. 13 of the deaths out of the 15 or whatever the number was, only 2 were non-COVID related. Like, I don't know if we can put that as like job related deaths. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's not violence is what I'm saying. It's a pandemic. It's not violence related. It's not happening because there's increased violence at the border.
Yeah. So, but they're just twisting. Make it seem.
I said that really poorly. So hopefully that clip gets pushed out.
They're just allowing.
They're
just allowing anyone to come to their own conclusions based on the information they're providing. Is what you're saying.
Being a border patrol agent, very dangerous.
Yes.
COVID does not carry a gun, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Right.
All right. That was more succinct. Yeah.
Right. Thank
But
you very much.
Just real quick about the National Guard. We need to stop in the National Guard like they're just this stopgap for anything and everything, because they're just overused right now. And now
the National Guard is essentially like Windex for Greek people.
I was gonna say, you ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they call it at the bar, they call it Charlie work, the work that nobody else wants to do. They're like, make Charlie do it. They're like, bring in the National Guard, fuck them, and they're just getting screwed.
And they're the ones that can actually say, you know what, I'm not doing this shit. Like it would make more sense if this is what you were doing with the active duty population, because you got to go. Like you'll go to jail if you don't. Some of these National Guard folks, they could just be like, fuck this, I'm out. Like if I was in the National Guard, I'd be like, I'm not getting the vaccine. Have you seen this shit that we're doing? It was worth it when we were going on deployments to like Iraq and Afghanistan. But now, buddy, you're sending me to fucking Iowa to get rid of snow? No, thank you. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, before you know it, you're gonna find some National Guardsmen performing surgery in an emergency room because they were shorthanded. He's just gonna throw his hands up like, I don't know, this is where they told me to come. It's just out of hand.
It absolutely is out of hand. And what's in my hand is Whistle Pig. They're the presenting partner for all of 2022, which I'm so excited about. I was thinking the other day when I was watching the old Twitter timeline. Did you Y2K 2020 22 years ago? That's
crazy, man.
Do
you guys remember where you were for that New Year's Eve?
Oh, do I ever, buddy? That was the biggest crowd I ever preached in front of. Was on
wow.
Y2K night.
Oh God!
So we actually went to this Y2K festival. We were gonna have a big worship thing.
You went
Atlanta.
to a Y2K festival? Shut up!
But it was bringing in the new millennium, and we were gonna bring in a new age of supporting Christ too, Kate. How about that? So
oh my God,
we went to this. It was at the Atlanta Convention Center that seats like 20-something thousand people that were there. And I got asked because I was working at this big like mega church in Pensacola, and they asked me to come speak at one of the things. So it was like 10 minutes that I got to talk. And I'm wearing this shirt that is almost looks like a mirror, like a disco ball.
Yes,
like
I know. Sequence.
Yeah, but it wasn't sequence. It was just super shiny like that, silver and shiny like a disco ball.
I'm picturing it in my head. I love it. Go ahead.
And I walk out there and I see this sea of people, and I'm like, I'm a motherfucking star out here.
There's only one chaps I like less than Meat Sweats chaps, and it's youth pastor chaps. I can't wrap my head around it.
It was a moment for sure. I definitely
there was Jesus
the
Christ
shell necklace head ass.
It was candy, damn it.
Yeah, there was Jesus Christ Super, and then there was
Chaps
McNeely
yesterday.
Christ almighty.
Anyway,
what were you saying about Whistle Pig chaps?
Oh,
Whistle Pig is delicious. If you want to try out their new canned beverages that they have, they're fantastic. They are all over the spot. They're getting them now. I'm telling. When we mentioned it yesterday, or what day? What my brain's
2 days ago. 3 days ago, whatever.
When we mentioned it the first episode, people were like, I'm finding it pretty easy. So maybe you can find it. It's piggyback barrel-aged craft cocktails, and they're in a can. They're so much better than seltzer. They're crisp, refreshing. They're super bold and flavorful. And I don't think there's anything like them out there. I really don't. Like I've had some canned cocktails, like at the beginning of the pandemic last March, we ordered some canned cocktails. Those things tasted like hot trash. Like they tasted like they just heated up a garbage truck, emptied out the juice into a Keurig and put it into my cup. Like that wasn't great at all.
These when I delicious. Put them, I've been dying to get out to a bar and get a fancy drink, and I just haven't had the chance. Baby and everything. I said this last time, putting the barrel aged rye smash in especially like the fresh ginger lime, putting it in a fancy glass on ice with a little sprig. Get out of here.
Sprig of what?
Mint.
Oh, wow.
I know it sounds crazy, but it's the most refreshing.
I would have never pegged you as a
not at all
fresh mint lady.
No,
I do. I've been getting a little crazy in the kitchen.
You've been getting herbies? I did see the stew that you made the other day look great.
Well, they have a
now. Let's be honest. Let's not gloss over that. Kate, that stew, did that just come out of a can?
No, it didn't.
Oh, all right. Hey,
so,
progress.
Just saying,
but there is something nefarious about this stew, Kate, because your face looked like you had something to hide.
My mom made it.
Damn it. We should have known. I was like, there's even meat that's been browned in there. That's pretty good for Kat.
I know. She nailed it. It's great. But anyway, I'm just saying.
Nice to see Virginia get some positive shine on the show.
Yes, seriously.
I know.
She's taking a lot of shots.
I'm just saying, put my whistle pig in a fancy glass. It makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah, when the whole squad comes over, you can have some with them. It's a flavorful drink that has 8% alcohol by volume. It's 100% estate-grown rye from the Whistle Pig Whiskey Farm. Make sure you go to piggybackryesmash.com for more info. You can grab you a box, or you can find it wherever they sell those things at. Just make sure you get one in your hand. You're going to want to have it for sure. Let's move on to round number 1. Lots of news coming up from Afghanistan that some of it's weird, some of it's not weird. This is weird. Like I feel like a lot of times, even though we know the Taliban are pieces of shit, why don't we just pick the right battles, Taliban? I mean, cutting off the heads of mannequins.
Yeah, that's what they're doing now. And so like this time around, this takeover of theirs around, they've been a lot slower to be immediately huge assholes because they know the world is watching. A lot has changed since the last time they were in control. And the internet now, they can't control the population as much as they did before. People have the internet, these videos and all this stuff gets out. But slowly but surely they're creeping back in and doing the same old shit in a surprise to no one. So the Taliban have a disturbing video showing men in Western Afghanistan decapitating mannequins dressed in women's clothes. And this video has gone viral because there's a lot of symbolism to it. Like they actually did this with real women before and had no problem doing that. But it's this huge group of mannequins, and there's just a pile of women mannequin heads on the ground as this Taliban guy is taking a saw and sawing the heads off. In the video, the man is seen sawing off a mannequin's head next to a pile of other heads on the floor. The voices of other men can be heard in the video, with one exclaiming Allah Akbar, or God is great, right before.
Can I say something really quickly about that? That phrase has taken a negative turn in the last 20 years, when in fact it is really nice sentiment. God is great. But it's now you hear Allahu Akbar, and
I think they do it. Even in these like national media organizations, like this comes from the BBC. They do this with intention. Like they're like, this is intentional to make it seem like this is like a Muslim thing. Like, because Muslims across the globe do this no matter what. Like they do this if they score a goal, if they are having like a nice dinner out with their friends. It's the way that they say goodbye. Like this is a common phrase in that area of the world where they use it to be like, this is always nefarious, this is always a bad thing whenever it's happening.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what they're doing here. They're just reporting exactly what they see and exactly what they hear.
I was just saying
that's
a complete
exactly
aside.
What the Taliban says when they do
right, but I think that a lot of times it is included. Like what else did they say? That's not the only phrases that they said in the entire thing.
No, this is just straight up reporting. I think they're saying here's exactly what one guy exclaimed, and then they can hear other people laughing as the man saws off.
I think there's a lot of Islamophobia, and I'm going to stand by that.
You're going to say that during a story about the fucking Taliban?
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying they're being Islamophobes about the Taliban. I'm saying that I think a lot of times people use that terminology to constantly put Muslims underneath. Everybody that says that is the same type of thing.
That was my point.
I think the Taliban are the ones fucking ruining it for everyone.
Well, sure. Okay. Cost and I are not defending the Taliban.
No, we're not defending them. I'm saying they've usurped that phrase, and now anytime anyone hears it, they don't take it for the direct.
It's the same thing as Patriot a lot of times, like the especially on January 6th while we record.
Yeah,
Patriot. The word Patriot has been bastardized a lot of ways. And I think it's the same thing for
if I see it in your profile, I assume you're just an enormous moron.
Right. And patriot, being a patriot, the purest form, there's nothing wrong with that. Same thing as saying Allah Akbar.
Saying God is great is by itself is a fantastic thing to say. I think God is great, but they've turned it into something terrible.
What the fuck are you guys doing here? They're sawing off the heads. They're saying Allah Akbar, and they're laughing as they're sawing off these women. That's because the Taliban think of the mannequins as statues, and they say that these mannequins are being worshipped. The decree issued last week warned that violators would be punished. We have ordered these shopkeepers to cut the heads off mannequins, as this is against Sharia law. This is according to their head ministry for the promotion of virtue and prevention of vice in the city of Farad.
Special mannequin division too.
Yeah, the mannequin, the Taliban man, very different than the Taliban suicide division. The Taliban mannequin division is considered the pogues of the
Yeah,
Taliban.
and very, very different
Right.
from Law and Order mannequin division.
You think the
Yes.
suicide unit walks into the chow hall and is like, we're pretty badass.
You really don't want to fight with them because they got nothing left to lose. You know,
They really don't.
They
No
really don't.
promotions either. Dead end jobs.
No promotions. Truly is. Although a nationwide policy for the recent order has not been issued, the Taliban's version of Islamic law forbids figurine-like representations. During the extremist group's first rule of Afghanistan in the 90s, they destroyed 2 ancient Buddha statues that were a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For shopkeepers, this has been very unfortunate because all the shopkeepers obviously were displaying all the outfits and the everything with these mannequins, and now they're saying it's going to hurt business. We're upset about it. Store owners who reportedly
I'm not going in to just fucking goof into a shop that has sawed off mannequins. I mean, like, that place is probably not good for business. I'm gonna take my stuff down to the other store.
What do you do if you're selling wigs now in Afghanistan?
I don't know.
You're not.
I want to know.
I think the rule of thumb there is that you're not.
At the Paul Mitchell Kabul salon school, what are they practicing on?
Did you ever get your hair cut at a Paul Mitchell's?
Oh, not a name brand. In Oceanside, California, they had a salon school. And I went there all the time and got my hair cut because I always wore my hair in a bun. I said, who gives a fuck what my hair looks like? I'll get a $2 haircut from these kids.
What was that other super fancy salon that used to be in like every mall?
Paul Mitchell and
there's another one.
I
can't remember what it was called, but I used Regis as well.
Regis, yeah.
Regis, yeah.
When I graduated boot camp, yes. When I graduated boot camp, I went to a Regis and got my haircut because that was the first time I could afford to. Felt fancy.
Very fancy.
Good for you, buddy.
Anyways, the Taliban is saying if they just cover the head or hide the entire mannequin, the angel of Allah will not enter their shop or house and bless them. So you risk not getting blessed and
like
probably
that.
maybe killed.
That's kind of like a little spooky.
You guys are killing me today. According to author and human rights advocate Homiera Kaderi, a recent directive is an insidious symbolic gesture. They used to behead humans. When I was 12, they would behead men and hang them from trees. They want to do this to spread fear among the people. So this person's saying it's less about, idols in the stores and more about they're sending a message to everyone. Do you see what we're doing here? This is a symbol for what's to come if you keep fucking up. So it's
whatever.
Than that. Are you saying whatever?
Lighten up, Francis. Jesus, like these.
Dude, are you insane? Are you fucking insane? Are you both on crazy pills today?
I'm saying the Taliban is absolutely ridiculous for having these beliefs.
Oh, I thought you were saying people were being crazy.
Kids get fired up.
Upset about.
I thought Content went too far too that they need to lighten up. Yeah, that's bad.
Oh my god.
No, I'm saying
lots of psychological deterrence going on there.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that the Taliban's a bunch of wacky people. The fact that they're using plastic mannequins to get their point across. They're just off the deep end at this point. Not that they haven't been off the deep end.
For Kaderi, a single mother who fled Afghanistan for the U.S. under the Taliban's return to power, the mobility restrictions are particularly jarring because now, too, on December 26th, they banned women from traveling long distances without a close male relative. By the way, and when I was in Afghanistan, this was already the case in the boonies. Nothing ever changed. The Taliban still controlled everything the whole time we were there in the outskirts outside the big cities. So this isn't a change. Like women were property and couldn't do anything. But anyway, for women in the big city, this is probably a huge change. She said, if I had still been there as a single mom, how would it have been possible for me to do regular everyday things like shopping, buying bread, taking my son to school? So this is going to fuck up a lot of people and put them in horrible positions. So
I have a question for you based on what you just said.
Yeah.
So these women in the far remote areas of Afghanistan, and I think we take for granted that the way we get information and how easy information is readily available to everybody in the United States, but that's not necessarily the case in a third world country.
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe to assume that some of them didn't know anything different and and how did they feel about that? Did they know other parts of the country, the women were starting to experience more freedom and they were still, or what was the situation?
No, a lot of those women seemed like had never left the little village that they were in ever. And they were still head to toe burqa, could only have the little slits for the eyes, even when it was 120 degrees out. and then full outfits underneath. Yeah, so they never had any of the freedom that the women in the city had. There was still complete Taliban control where we were. We just pretended.
Right, but did they know that
that they weren't?
But did they know that other women in parts of the country weren't under that control?
Probably not, unless they had.
I would assume that they would, because even if you look at it, like maybe not right away, maybe they don't know on like September 15th of 2001 what's going on in America. But surely after a while, even in Revolutionary War time, like people figured it out eventually. It took them a little while, like to know what was going on in Washington, D.C. away, but they would eventually find out.
I'm sure
like,
people traveling through, like other women traveling through and stuff. Yeah, it depended. Here's a quick reminder. Here's things in the previous Taliban rule in the 90s. Here's a quick list of other things that were banned. Television, shaving your beard, music, flying kites, the internet, keeping pet birds, and clear glass windows. All windows had to be painted in case you were to look into someone's home and see a woman inside. So no windows.
Taliban. Craziness.
Taliban. Not great.
Bad
not
people.
great,
Not
guys.
great. I would say that there's bad, and basically after that entire segment, we're going to have to quote drill here and saying that we're issuing a correction on a previous segment of ours regarding the terror group, the Taliban. You do not, under any circumstances, quote, have to hand it to them.
Yes, no. Thank you. What the fuck?
But you took it to a whole new spot.
I feel like they really get a bad rap on the whole Allah.
No,
that's not what we were saying. That's not what we were saying.
Old Lib Kate, not even willing to listen. Just
so woke.
Look at her, triggered, taking a sip of her water. Unbelievable.
Unreal.
1 week she gets mad at us for saying slit, and the other week she says that we're taking it too far. Pick a lane, Kate. How about that? Let's move on to round number 2. This one comes to us from good old Brussels. Their airline has operated 3,000 empty or near empty flights this winter to avoid losing takeoff and landing rights at major airports. The airline's parent company. What is that one?
Lufthansa.
That you got to check. That's a terrible brand name, right?
Yeah, actually,
if you're American, but
Lufthansa.
Sure.
I mean, if you're very well.
In Europe, I feel like it's common to say things like Lufthansa. Like, I feel like that's...
German, because it sounds angry.
But it's also very well known here because of the Lufthansa heist back in the 70s. That was by the mafia that you saw, fellas.
So they operated 18,000 flights this winter and could otherwise have been canceled due to a lack of passengers, including 3,000 flights under the Brussels airline banner. The news has prompted the Belgian federal government to write the European Commission, urging it to rethink the rules on securing slots. Before the pandemic hit, the rule was that airlines must operate flights at least 80% of their scheduled takeoff and landing slots, or they risk losing them. This was revised down to 50% after coronavirus broke out, but still remains much higher than the actual number of flights needed to meet passenger demand. Belgium's federal mobility minister, George Glinkenet, what a weird name. That's it, right? I did think it.
Yeah.
Gilkenet?
Yeah, I think I fucking crushed that. Has written to the European Commissioner for Transport to raise the issue. Gilkenet said that the rules were incomprehensible from an economic and ecological standpoint, and the threshold for keeping these flights sought after flights to reduce the schedule for their flexibility. What I'm saying here, the only reason why we're including this is a very military mindset.
Oh yeah.
Hugely
so and
military.
so basically if they don't use those flights when things do go back to normal, they lose those flights and some other bigger airlines.
It's basically use it or lose it. It's like leave.
Yeah. And that doesn't make sense to me though, that like if I don't go to an airport enough, I can never go there again. That's just, I don't know. That seems ridiculous.
Well, I think it's the takeoff, the order that they take off, and they put them in certain slots, and they have certain slots that are for United, certain slots that are for Southwest. And they're saying that they're going to lose their slots and they're going to go to another airline if they don't continue to use them because they want to utilize the runways as much. And that makes sense. Like I understand that you want to have, and it really encourages all the different companies to be efficient and to have logistical planning and all those things.
Yeah.
But also some things are out of your control. And if you got to take 3,000 empty flights during a time where we're talking about like the Paris Accord, which they're a big part of in Germany, why the fuck would you have 3,000 flights just flying huge airplanes for no reason at all?
Yeah, wasting gas, wasting people's time.
By the way, if I had known, you could probably get some super cheap last minute flights to and from Brussels. I would have been all over it.
Oh yeah, I like to just go right now on my United app. I pull it up, and sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, weekend flight here." I'm like, "Oh, I can go to Denver for $89." I never do it, but I like to look.
You should.
But it's nice there.
Brussels is
okay.
in Belgium,
Brussels?
which is not in England.
I didn't say England. I said Germany.
But
So I'm still wrong.
Brussels
Right.
is not its own country.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't say it was.
No, I'm thinking it through out loud.
Okay.
Okay.
So it reminded us of the military. Let's go through that a little bit. Kate, what do we got there?
So yeah, use it or lose it. In 2017, a couple examples here that Chaps dug up. The federal government found a way to spend 97 billion with a B in a single month last year, of which more than 61 billion can be attributed to the Pentagon. And it's not a new phenomenon. In the last month of every fiscal year, federal agencies work to spend all that is left in their annual budgets, because if they don't, the agencies fear they'll be appropriated by a smaller share from Congress the next year. So if we don't spend the 50 billion next year, they might only give us 40 billion. So we only need to spend 40 billion, but we're going to spend all 50 so that we get that amount next year or more, kind of thing. So they do use it or lose it spending sprees at the end of the fiscal year.
And get rewarded for it. Like you get an award for that shit.
Yeah, for just loosely spending money. An expert was saying, let me be clear, Congress is the problem here, not the DoD or other agencies. Historically, both parties tend to look the other way at Pentagon waste. This is a shame because the troops and taxpayers suffer. Lower priority items get funded while mission critical needs get shortchanged. The spending spree is basically Christmas in September for the federal government.
Or as they like to call it, Mannion Christmas.
Yeah. And last year, fiscal year, thank you. We get it out of the way early. Last year, fiscal year was the worst tracked so far. One of the standout purchases by the Pentagon included a $9,341 Wexford leather club chair purchased from the Interior Resource Group, according to the report. I included a photo of the chair here. It's hideous.
Doesn't look that special.
No, it's not special at all.
It looks like exactly the type of chair that's in the waiting room at every single military doctor's office.
Exactly. It looks like fluids. It's you can easily wipe fluids off of it.
Right.
The DoD also bought $32 million worth of batteries. 4.3.
Dude, think about that for a second. Because those batteries that they're mentioning are double and triple A's. How many batteries is $32 million?
Well, that's a lot of moonbeams. That's a lot of moonbeams.
You're getting a discount at Costco. You'd have to imagine. Like if you're buying
you're getting them wholesale.
You're getting them
wholesale.
That's so many batteries.
Yeah, it's crazy. 40, that's a lot of dildos. They're buzzing around out there. A lot of buffer springs are buzzing. $4.3 million worth of books and pamphlets.
Wow. That seems low. Like, how do we spend 8 times more money on batteries than on books?
Well, who the fuck is looking at pamphlets? Why are we spending any money on pamphlets anymore? Who the fuck?
Somebody hasn't been to the burn pit section at the doctor. Huh. They got that.
That's true.
They got how to check your ball sack.
This one blew my mind. $220 million worth of furniture. I have never seen good furniture in the military, ever.
Because it gets broken. Like people are like, oh, mop this. Okay, I throw the chair against the wall first.
And like my old ramshackle, but then again, my old ramshackle battalion HQ before I got out had this big, beautiful, enormously long wooden like meeting table, like that you'd see in Congress or something. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why the fuck do you need that gunny Doogie Howser? I don't know.
Yeah, now knowing the price of wood, like those big old battalion staff meeting tables, those things got to be 10 grand each.
But it's like, I know we can do this swim qual PowerPoint at a folding table. I don't know why we think in our crusty old building that we need this giant ass fancy wood table.
Just build an app. You could run the entire military through an app.
Yeah. $7.6 million worth of workout equipment and $786.3 million on guns, ammo, and bombs. And we've talked about this before. How many times did you go to a range, there was extra ammo left over, and they'd say, fuck it, go on 3-round bursts and just fire blindly into the sun until your ammo's out. Like, we were so wasteful at that shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good time. I'm not gonna.
I don't want to stop.
That's one of the only good parts about being in the military is expend the range day. Like those are really fun. But there's so many. How do you only spend $7.6 million on workout equipment? Like you would think
that seems low too.
That should be a lot more. I would imagine the Army, because of the way that you guys changed over your physical fitness program, that has drastically increased because they had to buy all those different super expensive Olympic style bars, those things, I don't think people realize how expensive that shit is. Like when you're talking Olympics type weightlifting bars or the 45-pound plates that are metal or the bumpers, those things are expensive, man.
Yeah, the bumpers and like the trap bar deadlift bars.
Yeah.
Those are not common. So those are definitely more. So that number probably got bumped up the last couple of years in the art, sure. But the $220 million worth of furniture really quickly. So my last job in the Army, I was doing operations
yoga instructor, right?
Yes. I did. Mm-hmm. I did practice the entire time I was in that job. It was fantastic. I did yoga at lunch 3 times a week. It was excellent. But I got put in charge of ordering new furniture and stuff. And I was in the same situation, use it or lose it.
Did you use Pinterest?
I did. But I was also spending an inordinate amount.
Look at this leather chair for a mere $9,000.
Wexford.
Add to cart.
I was going to say the amount of money I spent on towels for the gyms on our campus was just a little bit ridiculous, but I had to. They told me I had to. So,
well, that's at the all military hospitals. When you go into like the baby ward or whatever, they're like, please do not take all of our towels home because it costs us so much money a year. And you're like, I don't give a fuck. I'm taking all those
You're
towels.
coming home with me.
You're coming home with me. All right, let's go in through I found some of the biggest waste of money programs in military history. We're going to go through those. We're going to start now. So the first one we have up, and I think everybody knows this one because we've talked about it a bunch. But still, when you look at the actual number, it is staggering how much money this program cost. It was Lockheed Martin's F-35 Lightning II coming in at $1.5 trillion. Trillion.
Yep.
Trillion.
And it was meant to be this all-encompassing fighter jet that would rule them all, that every single branch could use. And instead, tech problems, delays, obsolete tech. Like they were so slow in developing stuff with it, but by the time they'd have an advancement, it was like, oh, well, it's already obsolete. It's estimated that since its inception in 96, 1.5 trillion is what it has cost us, has trouble landing on aircraft carriers, and has trouble winning dogfights. And for a vehicle named the Lightning, it is vulnerable to lightning strikes. Not great.
I don't
Two things.
How is the one that they have before, like the F-16 and the F-18s, the F-15s, how are they still better?
This doesn't make sense to me, but 2 things. I didn't realize the F-35 was around since 96. So add up that, all those years. And I guess that's how you get to 1.5 trillion.
Deal. It's a pretty good deal over time. Yeah.
Also, so wait, it was meant to be used by multiple branches.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they have it in multiple branches too. Like the Navy has there's Marines that fly it and there's Air Force.
Wow. I didn't. Unbelievable. Learn something.
I don't know if the Army has any F-35s or not.
I don't think so. Not yet. Probably. Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Next up, behind the F-35, we got the Strategic Defense Initiative that cost $100 to $150 billion. This was a Reagan era initiative, and it was just because everybody was scared of Russia. Like so many of our things is because we're nervous about what Russia and China were doing. I feel like that's just the way to get money from Congress. Be like, those fucking Russians.
It's like keeping up with the Joneses. Did you see what the Smiths did across the street?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
New driveway. We should probably get a new driveway,
Mm-hmm. This one was meant to be a space system of lasers and satellite that would shoot down any Russian intercontinental or submarine launched nuclear missile headed toward the United States. It was a black hole of theoretical research, pop culture ridicule, political tension, and spent money. Estimates for its research and development started $100 billion, all for a system that was dependent on technology that was never developed past the theoretical stage. So a $100 billion theory.
Yeah, they spent $100 billion being like, here's ideas.
The next one is pretty fascinating too, right, Kate?
Yeah, Hitler's Atlantic Wall. And by the way, this particular photo that no one can see, so I don't know what I'm talking about, looks like 2 butt cheeks with a howitzer sticking out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, soon after Nazi Germany conquered France, Hitler ordered the building of fortification all along the Atlantic coast to protect it from Allied landings. This called for 15,000 individual emplacements to be manned over 250,000 Germans, by over 250,000 Germans, and all in less than a year. The cost was staggering in lives, material, and money. 1.2 million tons of steel, that would be enough to build 20,000 tanks, was used, along with 17 million cubic meters of concrete. The total cost was the equivalent of 200 billion in today's money, which Germany could barely afford. It was breached in less than a day, with the vast majority of emplacements either never finished or never used. Guys, walls pretty much stopped being effective at the end of feudalism. I feel like back in the Dark Ages,
I was watching World War II in color on Netflix, and they were talking about the Atlantic Wall. And like in theory, it's a great idea. You could put all those weapons and really defend that Atlantic Wall. But obviously, as we saw, it wasn't working.
Up next, we have Hitler's Atlantic Wall for a whopping 200 billion. After Nazi Germany conquered France, Hitler ordered the building of fortification all along the Atlantic coast to protect it from Allied landings. This called for 15,000 individual emplacements to be manned by over 250,000 Germans and foreign conscripts, all in less than a year. This cost a staggering in lives, material, and money, and cost a staggering 1.2 million tons of steel. That's enough to build 20,000 tanks and 17 million cubic meters of concrete.
To give you an idea how many people that is, that's 2.5 Marine Corps. Like to man these things, you would just need 2.5 Marine Corps to have this manned.
Yeah, and it costs about $200 billion, which Germany could not afford at the time. And it was breached in less than a day, with the vast majority of emplacements either never finished or never used. So yeah, in less than a day. I feel like walls that ended with like feudalism in the Dark Ages. Once we could start flinging arrows, and once we had guns, and once we had whatever, like I understand building little forts, but I feel like the idea of
you got to be sneaky
being unbreachable.
You can't just have these big old concrete monstrosities sitting around. People know where they are, and they'll just
exactly where they are, right?
Drop a couple bombs in those things and call it a day. I would imagine going in those meetings with somebody like Hitler, whenever you know that this is a bad idea, I imagine that they just have to go with it. Like, what do you say? Like, if you go in there with in a tactical meeting with Hitler and he's like, I want to do this for $200 billion, and you're a general and you're like, that shit's not going to work. Like, that's huge. We could use those 20,000 tanks. I mean, imagine if they didn't and they went in with tanks and things that could have actually been effective. The whole war might have been different if they spent that money and that resources on something different. Things could have been totally different.
It's like the border wall and the border mission here in the U.S. It's like so many people got grifted by that. And it's
the new ones, even when they put up the new section of the wall, and
people
then
just go over it.
They're like, oh yeah, we went under it. It took us like a day to get
right
there. It was no big deal. You're going to find a way to figure it out, and you can't. It's just not going to work. The next one up was Project Nike. This is a Cold War paranoia over the waves of Soviet bombers blasting into U.S. into the nuclear oblivion led to a staggering engineering and military project code named Nike. It was planned to build anti-aircraft missile batteries all over the country, concentrating on cities, military targets, and industrial bases. The missiles were placed in batteries of 2 or 3 with corresponding radars, barracks, underground storage bunkers, elevators, and maintenance facilities. This is essentially the initial stages of doomsday preppers is what they're doing.
Yeah. So basically, we basically had little missile bases all over the country just ready to fucking roll. And that was 20 billion, cost about 20 billion. And most of the sites sit abandoned today. And many of them pose severe environmental hazards. So not great, really bad. And I saw this tweet at the end as you're talking about all this enormous amount of waste. This woman, Alex Kuman, said, wouldn't it be cool if they took 1% of the military budget and just paid us all to stay home for 2 weeks with all this crazy COVID and all this shit? Like 1% of our military budget could pretty much just.
Would it even be that? Would it even have to be 1%? Could it be like 0.5%?
Yeah, it could be like 0.5%. Like
I'd take anything.
Yeah.
I'd take anything. Yeah, But anyway, I digress.
All right, let's move on to round number 3. Kate, what do we got there?
Whew, we're in the hot seat. Got a little arson goofing going on.
And it's volunteer firefighters, just so you know.
Volunteer. You know how I feel about that. So from St. Clair County, Illinois, there were high emotions and high drama at a fire district board meeting in Illinois on Monday as a once convicted arsonist was named acting chief of the volunteer fire department. The board removed John Rosencrans as chief of the Prairie du Pont Volunteer Fire Department and replaced him with Assistant Chief Jerame Simmons. The two were seated at the same table when the change was made. Board members said they had good reasons for making the change, but haven't made them public. The guy we currently have isn't good enough at setting fires. We want somebody who really knows how to set a good.
That's good damn training.
Yeah, that wasn't good enough reasoning for most of the department's firefighters. 10 of the 13 quit on the spot. One firefighter took off his fire department shirt and threw it at the board. And if you know anything about firefighters, they fucking love their firefighter shirts. They fucking love them.
Do they?
Oh my God, are you kidding? My ex, his dad was in the FDMY. I had like 15. They're great shirts. FDMY shirts. I know Nick listening probably has at least 20 different FDMY shirts. Am I correct?
Way more than that.
Wow.
Fire departments, man.
I have some from like 1983. That'd be before I was born. My dad still has them, and he still wears them. And there's more holes than there is cloth.
Yes, they're almost always navy blue, and they always, fire department.
I'll say, I think firefighters are very proud of being firefighters, rightfully so.
As they should be.
Yeah, that unit pride.
Volunteer.
Yeah, except for volunteer firefighter.
Anyway, so 10 of the 13 quit. One firefighter took off his shirt and threw it. James Simmons, the new acting fire chief, is the son of Herb Simmons, the longtime director of the St. Clair County Emergency Management Agency. Interesting. A little nepotism happening here. James Simmons pleaded guilty to arson more than 20 years ago when he was 18. He was accused of setting fire to a vacant home and setting another smaller fire at a high school. He served
I think we got to move on. 20 years. He did it when he was 18. I feel like you're good.
I'm going to say something.
A vacant home. Oh, who wouldn't want to set fire to a vacant home? Come on.
We played with fire when I was a kid, and
I set a field on fire. So what?
Okay, but I feel like there's a different something going on in your brain when you're setting a home on fire, because
if it was the dude that did the USS Bonhomme Richard, if it was that guy and now he's going in and it's only like 2 years later, I feel like we could be upset. 20 years? 20 years is a long time. He hasn't set fire to anything in a long time.
He was also pardoned.
But maybe it's like being an alcoholic. Once you take that first sip, you just can't get enough. You see one fine, you're like, gotta set another.
There's a story.
Always an arsonist.
There's a story from somewhere in the country. I forget. It was I want to say it was in the Delmarva Peninsula. It was a volunteer firefighter there, set like 25 fires across the peninsula, like throughout the time. And it was because, this is a crazy story. There's a whole podcast about it. He like leveled up. He got this girlfriend who was like way too hot patootin for him. And she knew she could control him. But he wasn't pleasing her in bed. And she was like, you know what'll turn me on and what I'll still keep you around for, if you go around setting these fires. And he was like,
that's hazardously horny.
And they go around together in a van, and he would run out of the van and like set the fires. And she was like, oh yeah, that gets me going. Good. Yeah. Anyway, you have to look it up. It's a whole crazy story. Anyway,
and my flames, baby.
Illinois Governor Pritzker has since pardoned him. It's a pardon. Still, the town remembers the school being set on fire, said former fire captain Laura Rosencrantz, wife of the former chief. The town remembers the house set on fire when we had firefighters fall and be injured. So yeah.
Oh, well, they're injured. Now I'm out again.
Yeah, we're out. You got to be out. You do not, in fact, have to give it to to people setting fires to homes. I think it's appalling and disgusting, said former Chief John Rosencrantz. We're not going to have that.
Now kids laughing about this, so it evens out what happened in round one.
We're not going to have adequate protection here. It's not going to be as it should be. I'm kind of blindsided, but not. I knew it was coming, but didn't expect it a couple days before Christmas. The board did not give him a reason for his dismissal. 7 years ago, Rosencrantz said his family lost their home to a fire on Christmas. The chiefs of two neighboring departments said they supported the change and had full confidence in James Simmons as acting chief. He has been a devoted volunteer firefighter at area departments for years, they said. They added that their departments would help fill any gaps left by those who quit.
Okay.
And
I like this because if the volunteer firefighters had such an issue with this fella being the chief, why even let him on the squad? Like, if you have such an issue with this guy, don't let him on your team.
Well, it sounds like he was on neighboring teams. I don't know.
I think that's a red flag, where he was on multiple teams over the years. If you're really good, people aren't going to just let you go unless he was like moving a lot or something. So that's a red
Tell
flag
that to Peyton Manning.
And again, I'll say this with volunteer firefighters in my DMs again. God bless them. We need them. The world needs them.
Get their fingers crossed, folks.
But it's a fucking clique. There is drama. Let me tell you, there is drama. There's a whole social network. They only interact with their own.
So much spaghetti.
There's so much spaghetti. Oh my God, there's so many spaghetti dinners. Forget it. And spaghetti casserole. So many casseroles.
Oh,
I'm just saying, it's a
Pyrex glasses.
It's a very incestuous little world that they have going on there.
Incestuous.
So I'm saying they all interact with each other and they're little.
You walk into the firehouse, you're getting fucked. You just know it already.
No, not like that. No fucking. But there's fucking too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I bet they are.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you come in there from a stressful thing. You need to get your load off.
Absolutely. Anyway,
interesting
story there.
Nut. Speaking of nutty situations, that's what's happening in Kazakhstan. We wanted to give you a because I didn't really know. I saw like tweets and articles here and there. I didn't really know what was going on, so I figured most of you guys didn't know either. So we are going to walk you through what's happening real quickly in Kazakhstan because we think that we need to have an eye on the globe too. Okay, what's going on?
Yeah, so security forces in the Central Asian state of Kazakhstan say they have killed dozens of anti-governmental rioters in the main city, Almaty. They moved in after protesters tried to take control of police stations in the city. 12 members of the security forces have been killed and 353 injured in the unrest, sparked by a doubling in the cost of liquefied petroleum gas. Russia is sending in troops at the request of the Kazakh president. They will be deployed to help stabilize the country, which is a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, along with Russia, Belarus.
Russia stabilizing anything doesn't give me warm feels.
No.
Like if I'm in Kazakhstan, I'm like, oh, well, Russia's coming. Fuck.
And the Collective Security Treaty Organization doesn't give me as warm fuzzies as the UN does either.
Because that's Russia, Belarus, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and Armenia.
Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. Yeah, Kyrgyzstan. The CSTO confirmed Russian paratroopers were being dispatched as peacekeepers with advanced units already deployed. Protests began Sunday when the government lifted its price cap on the gas, which many people use to fuel their cars, but the unrest has spread to include political grievances. It's a big old festivus happening over there, and a deadly one at that. So Kazakhstan, it borders Russia to the north and China to the east. Huge country the size of Western Europe, dwarfing in landmass the other former Soviet republics of Central Asia.
It is enormous. If you've never pulled out a map and look how big Kazakhstan is, because you're like, oh, Kazakhstan, it sounds like a smaller country because we don't really talk about it a lot in America. It is enormous. There was a guy that I went to high school with that was an exchange student from Kazakhstan, and I used to talk to him all the time about what was going on in Kazakhstan. And it was one of probably the most influential relationships of my high school life, like learning from somebody else that was from a different culture. I'd imagine exactly what exchange students are supposed to do. Like, were you learning about different cultures? One of the main takeaways that I took, do you know what one of their main sauces are? You would love it there. No. You'd fit right in. Mayonnaise. Huge mayonnaise, folks. Like on pizzas and stuff, they don't use tomato sauces. They use mayonnaise.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Well, now I'm extremely invested. But basically, why does it matter? They have vast mineral resources, and 3% of global oil reserves and coal and gas come from there. So kind of a big deal. It's a mainly Muslim republic with a large Russian minority, and it has largely escaped civil strife, and as you see in other parts of Central Asia. So big riots and everything. About 1,000 people have been injured in the unrest, 400 treated in the hospital, 62 in intensive care. Water cannons are going against the protesters. There's curfews, bans on mass gatherings, and all sorts of upheavals happening in the government. And of course, Russia has their fingers in everything. So they're
so we're going to keep an eye on to see what's going on, because anytime there's a whole area of the world that has unrest, not a great situation at all. So we just wanted to brief you on that real quick. Finally, round number 5. We have a little round number 5 goofing. Oh, wait, before we move into that, we want to talk about Syria and Iran or Iraq, right?
Yeah, everyone's saying like, the war is over now, our troops are home, blah, blah, blah. But 8 rounds of, and this Chad Garland reported on this, 8 rounds of rocket fire targeted U.S. troops on a base in Syria hours after coalition strikes hit several launch sites. There was a rocket attack in Baghdad too. On Monday and Tuesday, explosive-laden drones were shot down near bases in Baghdad and Western Iraq. So it's just a quick reminder, like, shit's still going down and troops are still very much in harm's way.
And they actually had a huge ceremony just that day too in Iraq, where it was the 101st anniversary of their army being stood up. And it was the official end of all combat operations in Iraq for U.S. troops as well, which seem to go fly under the radar a little bit because it feels like that should have been a long time ago. All right, let's move on to round number 5. This is a good story. Woohoo!
Yay, we have a good story to end the week with. And if you're listening to this on Friday morning, we're supposed to be getting a little, not a blizzard, but a pretty good little snowstorm up here. I already got daycare telling me we're going to have delays tomorrow. So
preemptive delays.
Preemptive. So it's going to be a doozer.
Real quickly, and this isn't so much for chaps because I don't think you ever dealt with this growing up in Florida, but Kate, when it came to snow days, did you prefer knowing the night before, like, yo, this is definitely a snow day, or the feeling waking up in the morning and finding out school's closed?
Oh, both were equally fucking great. If it was the night before, I would call the neighborhood girls and we'd be in cahoots about which sledding hills we were hitting first, whose mom was making the pancakes, whatever.
Yeah, I used to have it in Pax River, Maryland. Forget that.
Oh yeah, true. That's true. Oh.
Don't let him in on this.
You're right.
Oh, I did at Lexington Park Elementary. I missed several days. It was wonderful.
It was
and
one
we
day.
used to have this warehouse behind my house in base housing, and there was a huge hill that went down. I grabbed the top of a trash can, went in there, slid into the door, opened it up, and there's an old angry man in there that was like 65 and told us to get the fuck out.
You need to get out.
I was like, get out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
Kate, do you remember there were 2 big snowstorms in the 90s, the winter of 94 and the winter of 96? You remember those?
Oh, 96. My dad.
96 was great.
Our neighborhood, our house was at the top of the hill. If the neighborhood was a whole big hill, our house was at the top. And my dad named our neighborhood High Meadows himself so that our property value would go up. Our neighborhood had no
strong
name.
dad move.
Yeah. And at the bottom of the neighborhood, he called that Lower High Meadows. Anyway,
so
we were at the top. And then I'd sloped down into our neighbor's yard, which sloped down into another neighbor's yard. Well, all the dads got into cahoots and they built us because Blizzard of 96 was a layer of ice and then snow. So they dug down to the ice and made us a luge that went through 3 whole yards. And they would give us a good push off my front porch. And we would go through 3. Oh, it was great. We went through 3 acres. It was
I remember that, where it melted a little bit, froze again, and there was ice everywhere on the sledding hills. That was fantastic.
I remember my dad slipping on our porch and hitting his shin real bad. It's something about when your parents hurt themselves in front of you. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Anyway. Sorry, you couldn't reminisce with us there, chaps.
Yeah, sorry, chaps.
I could have, but you guys intentionally excluded me. I have plenty of snow stories.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay, Jacksonville.
Okay.
Okay.
That 1-inch dusting that one time. Yeah, okay.
It was a good time. How many hurricane days did you guys get, you pieces of shit?
Okay, touche. And those seem pretty fun.
Yeah.
Going out and playing in the hurricane with your friends. Yeah, pretty sick.
It was sick.
That was great when you go out in the ocean during the hurricane.
Sick.
Yeah.
It was
Grab
awesome.
your boogie boards.
Yeah.
The power would go out and we'd be outside barbecuing for several days in a row in your face.
That sounds fantastic.
Sounds awesome.
That sounds so much better than
Smoky.
watching
Or
movies
you guys
with your
were
buddies.
sitting in your
drinking
schools
hot
with no
cocoa.
air conditioner in New Jersey.
Anyway.
Fair. Okay, so we all know a huge blizzard hit the East Coast this week down in the DC area. And anytime it's south of Pennsylvania, everybody's all fucked up. Nobody knows how to deal with it down there. So a rare blizzard left much of Mid-Atlantic snowed in earlier this week, with some people stranded in traffic for almost an entire day on icy roads. In Virginia, a truck driver and Marine Corps reservist took the time to whip up an improvised breakfast for his temporary neighbors on Interstate 95, which goes from Florida up the coast to northeastern Maine. And this is from Task and Purpose, by the way. And I was looking at TikToks from people stuck in this. 24 hours in a freezing car, and people didn't know where to go to the bathroom, nothing to eat. So being stuck in the car for hours on a freezing winter morning might make anyone reach for a cheese and veggie omelet MRE. But Giancarlo Gachet, a corporal born in the Marine Corps Reserves, a corporal in the Marine Corps Reserves, pardon me. He was
born into the Corps.
Whatever. Anyway, he had something better, a Jimmy Dean breakfast bowl and a cup of fruit punch. We had a lot more resources on a truck, food, water, a bed. He said, I wouldn't have wanted to be in a car in that situation. He was headed from Warwick, Rhode Island to Savannah, Georgia, when he was caught near Woodbridge, Virginia, early Monday morning, among thousands of others who would wind up stranded on the highway. He and drivers around him had been stuck for almost 8 hours when he started preparing a meal. He was right behind me. I had seen him walking his dog before, said Gachet. Gachet used the microwave in his truck to prepare a much welcome breakfast, then brought it out to those around him. So I just walked up, gestured to the doors, told them I'd made some breakfast. It was a guy and his mother. They were so thankful. It was a nice moment. And it was captured, of course, on anytime you do something good, you hope that it's captured on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Where it looks like you don't know that people are watching, but you
if
know
it wasn't, I'd
watching.
be fucking furious.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, did anyone just see the amazing thing I just did? Yeah.
Yeah. So very nice of him making breakfast in his truck, giving it out to some of the drivers. And a long tradition of Marines helping others in need, from soaking their dress uniforms to help stranded drivers to rescuing a woman pinned under a vehicle in DC. As of Wednesday morning, roads were clear and he was back on his way to Savannah. But just a nice little story. Marine helping people out. This is where it's good too. Like when someone does a Marine, when a veteran does something bad, it's automatically like, by the way, they're a Marine. It's like, what does that have to do with anything? When a Marine does something good, a veteran, they're like, by the way, they're a Marine. I'm like, exactly. That's what we're all about. We're the best. I'm rambling. I'm on a heater today. 2 coffee
It's
cake.
totally fine. Let's move on to save rounds and alibis. Nick, what do you got for your save round?
Yeah, sure. Save round. So, yesterday I put up a video of trying out some World War II recipes. And, it's fine with the peanut butter. I understand people are going to have their own preference, but the bread, people saying it was too thick. First, that's the bread my daughter chooses. So that is what actually offended me.
And first of all, back the fuck off, everybody.
Seriously,
If Gia likes that bread, that's the kind of bread they're going to get.
Yeah, so that is her bread of choice. That's the bread we have in the house. We'll always have that in the house. So you're just going to have to live with it.
All right. And I love the video, Nick. I love the gusto that you went after it. So I actually talked to Nick. I have another recipe that he's going to try. He said,
what do we got?
So this one is called ham slices cooked in milk.
Why so much ham? Why so much ham?
Because it saves forever, because it has so much salt. The preservatives is stronger, even if it
cooked in milk.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, well, time out. I love how Kate just scoffs at that. Like she doesn't eat beets out of a can, and it's just can't cook worth a hell. But she's very judgmental. But go ahead, chaps.
It's a lot of it is canned ham too. This one is real ham. So you're gonna need to split ham into either the cushion or the knuckle sections, is what it says here, and cut those into 1/2 to 3/4 inch thick slices. So you're gonna have to take the ham, slice it, and then you're gonna cover it with brown sugar and mustard. Rub that on both sides of the ham. Then you're gonna place that into a baking pan and pour milk over it. Cook it in the oven slowly at 325 for about 2 hours until it's tender, and then serve with the milk sauce over the ham slices.
All right.
So this one's a little more involved than just throwing a little ham. This is the good shit. I imagine this is for the officer quarters. That's where they got their ham milk from.
I need to watch Nona making this for you.
They have a spaghetti recipe.
Just throw me out of the family.
Yeah, she would throw you out of the family.
They have spaghetti and meat sauce in there too, Nick. That maybe we can.
So we're talking like a real, like an actual ham then, because I got to get the thick cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can expense it.
Yeah, you can expense
the ham to ZBT.
Yeah. No. All right. Well, I'm man of my words. I will be doing this, and then I also will try Kans's tuna and peanut butter combination at some point.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, Kans, what do you got?
Hey, while we're on the topic of food, chaps, you're on a new run.
Yeah, I'm on a new breakfast sandwich run, which I'm excited about.
You gotta get pork roll. I'm sure
I was
going
gonna
to
say
down there. Those little meat circles that you're putting on your sandwich.
They
are
have
not
the
there.
actual Taylor ham at the HEB. Yeah.
Oh,
Please
chaps, go get that.
Kaiser roll, Taylor ham, egg, salt, pepper, ketchup, hot sauce.
Okay, I'll go get it today.
Oh my God.
When I'm done here, I'll go to HEB and go get it.
And white American cheese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not yellow.
Okay. Done.
It's important.
Yeah, this is important. So I'm excited for you to have that. Number 2, I was thinking about this last night, and I guess it makes even more sense now because I was having some technical difficulties today on the show. It makes no sense. Phones, Zoom, all this technology, it makes no sense that we're sitting in different places and we're all just looking at each other and talking. I don't understand.
Very bizarre. And real time too. I'll never get it.
Yeah, I can't wrap my brain around how all of this works in this world.
I also don't understand microwaves.
Yeah. I
got this little because I am going on the breakfast sandwich run, and so I ordered this little egg thing that you put into the microwave, and it's supposed to make like an egg McMuffin, super easy. Takes like a minute. First of all, those things are fucking trash. It's garbage. I threw it away right away. Didn't work at all. But I thought when I was pulling it out, how does this little piece of shit device keep the microwaves inside?
I don't know.
How does
No
it not
idea,
When
dude.
fry
I
my
was when
brain?
I was pregnant, I stayed away from that thing when it was on, so I didn't want any little laser beams coming through. Poking
It
my
makes
baby.
perfect sense. Kate.
Rightfully
I think
so.
it was a great decision on your part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll never that and X-rays. How does it not work? How does the X-ray machine safe for everybody around it?
I don't know.
How does the microwave not fucking burn
Yeah, like when you
everybody
go
up
to-
in the house?
You go to the dentist and they just put that little like vest on you and they do your mouth x-rays. How does that help?
Yeah,
I
put a
don't
little
know.
thing over your dick and balls just to make sure
Mm.
you don't get X-rays in there.
Your
Anyway,
ribs.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't understand technology.
You're
I
s-
just
Your slit.
yeah, there you go. Two more things very quickly. Elizabeth Holmes got sentenced. I don't know. I was fascinated by her whole story, her whole arc. We talked about her with General Mattis and being on the board of her company. So I thought that was interesting that she finally got sentenced. And then lastly, I just saw this today. Vice President Kamala Harris said certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021. Now, I remember where I was last year just because it was only a year ago and it's significant enough. I don't know that in 20 years I'll be able to readily remember where I was. So that,
I think we will. I think that'll be. I don't think it's the same as Pearl Harbor and 9/11.
That was
I
my
think
second point.
That's insane. Like,
yeah, you can't
to make
compare
them the same. There's been other days that are bad, but of the bad days in American history, this
pretty
one's going
bad.
to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking bad.
Like, I feel like
you're
it's
right.
a Hall of
Not a
Fame bad day.
comparison. Not a great comparison, but you're right. Definitely a Hall of Fame day.
No, it was terrible day for our country. And I'll always acknowledge that, but I just didn't like the comparison to Pearl Harbor and 9/11 when so many people were brutally killed. I hate
both siding it, but this has been like a predominant thing that we've seen, like Lindsey Graham coming out and saying that Joe Biden made this incredibly partisan. Dude, it was partisan. Like,
that was the whole basis of it.
It was a partisan thing. It was overturning an election. Like, that's a partisan thing. Of course it was partisan. And then you have people attacking Ted Cruz and calling him a liberal because he acknowledged the fact that it was bad. Like, I don't think, like, we don't have to do that. Lindsey Graham said enough was enough after it was over. Every single one of these people that are against the January 6th commission now, at the time, they were like, this was really, really bad. I don't understand why we can't all just be like, that was objectively terrible. What happened? Why do we have to move it the other way? Like, why can't you be logical about what's going on? I just don't get it.
I feel like if anything, it would only bring more credibility to your party to be like, yeah, that was weird. And that wasn't us. You know, like, that's not the heart of us. That was fucking weird. And we separate ourselves from it.
Even if you use it and like, we're going to get back to our values. Like, we realize what we were at. We did get a little bit off track. We're going to go back to being the small government for the people, the blue collar worker. Like, just go out and say that type of thing instead of being fucking crazy.
Yeah, kind of what Congressman Kingsinger was doing with the Country First movement and just acknowledging that January 6th was terrible and getting back to what the party used to stand for potentially. I don't want to get into that discussion, but I just thought that was in poor taste to mention those other two dates in the same vein as January 6th. Because there's a lot of dates that you'll remember where you were. Like, I remember where I was like when OJ was, fleeing from the cops, or I remember where I was when, any number of events, but I wouldn't compare.
I do think it was a very bad day. And it was a day that was unlike any other in American history.
Sure.
As far as being self-inflicted wounds and things like that. But saying that the same thing as Pearl Harbor or 9/11 is foolish, but it was very, very bad.
Yep. So that's all I got.
All right. Mine, I want to give a shout out. We've talked about him several times on the show, but the oldest living World War II veteran, Lawrence Brooke, died on Wednesday at the age of 112, according to the World War II Museum in New Orleans. He was a Louisiana native, a resident, and was drafted in 1940 and served in the Army's 31st Engineer Battalion. His battalion was a predominantly Black group of service members due to the military segregation policies at the time. He's been videoed and done interviews where he's just sipping on whiskey, and my man, like old granddad 114 whiskey, which if you are a whiskey head, 114 is not fucking around. That's 114 proof, which is 57% straight up alcohol.
Jesus.
He said that he drank a shot or two of that every single day, was driving until the age of 110, just a legend. And apparently the people that know him, he was beloved by all that was around him. He had 15 children. His parents were sharecroppers and moved to Mississippi to find work after the Great Depression. He was initially discharged and returned to New Orleans in November of 1941 after his obligatory service, and he rejoined the army following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Didn't have to be drafted again, came up and volunteered. Fair winds and following seas to him. I think that those kinds of stories are ones that we're going to miss, seeing veterans who have endured so much, especially ones like Mr. Brooks, who we've talked about the greatest generation and how people like Mr. Brooks were definitely mistreated whenever they came back and having to deal with the segregated military. Awful all around. So I wanted to give a shout out to him and to his family. I'm sure that it's beautiful knowing that 112, you definitely didn't live a short life. You lived one that had everything that it could possibly have to offer. And then seeing communities, especially the military communities, looking at somebody that you love so much and paying tribute to him must make that crossover feel a lot better. I wanted to mention January 6th a little bit. We didn't talk about it too much, but I do want to say, I think that where we're at now is the exact same spot. And the reason why I didn't even put it as around for today's show is because America has proven again that we cannot maintain focus on anything. Everything is politically divisive. Everything is backbiting and you cannot include a single politician who talks about a single issue who doesn't take a shot at the other party. It's beyond bullshit. And I'm frankly fucking sick of it. And I'm sure the listeners have noticed that we don't really talk about anything political anymore. One, I just don't have a desire to, because I don't think it doesn't
accomplish anything.
Gleaned. Right. There's no fruit gleaned. Everybody's a fucking idiot. Everybody.
Everyone. All sides. Everyone's a big dum-dum.
It's just exhausting.
Not me, though.
It is exhausting.
Not us. Not us.
Anyways, and we did get some of your requests for different interviews, one of which is the fellow that was on the new season of Queer Eye, which I'm excited about.
I watched that last night.
I just watched it
great.
Last night. Yeah.
I'm in talks with him to go up to his ranch. I'm excited about see what's going to happen there. We'll see you guys again here on Tuesday or Monday. Go follow the YouTube channel, please. My children are starving. Summer retreat.